President Biden will hold a rare solo press conference today as he tries to convince members of his own party that he can serve a second term.
Meanwhile, a big name is calling for him to step aside in the presidential race. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett joining us from Washington, D.C. Major, so good to see you. Always appreciate having conversations with you. We want to talk about actor George Clooney. We're here in Hollywood. We know Nancy Pelosi also made some statements yesterday. Can you give us a brief recap, though, of what George Clooney talked about in his New York Times opinion piece?
So George Clooney said several things. One, President Biden, from his vantage point, can't win this election. Two, he's a loyal Democrat, lifelong Democrat, and hosted a fundraiser for the president. And most damning, George Clooney said at that fundraiser, witnessing the performance, the demeanor of President Biden, told him that he's not the same person that he was even in the 2020 campaign. And most damning of all, Jamie said, what I saw in that fundraiser behind closed doors is what the country saw in that debate performance that has left so many Democrats dispirited. And for those reasons, George Clooney said, it is incumbent upon President Biden, whom he says he reveres and respects, to step aside.
So put in perspective for us why George Clooney's opinion even matters. I mean, we are here in Hollywood. He is very influential, but he's also a big donor.
He's a big donor. He's famous. And because he's in that circle of not only prominent, visible Hollywood actors, he is someone who is a kind of symbol of potential donor dismay turning into something that is harder than dismay, meaning donors simply will not continue to send money to the Biden re-election campaign. That's not a guarantee, but it's an indicator of deep conversations, deep reservations, and let's do this very locally. Jeffrey Katzenberg, someone that George Clooney knows very well, is a national co-chair of the Biden for re-election campaign. He has all year long been working the Hollywood circuit, making sure everyone stays on the Biden train and continues to support financially in every other way. There is no way you would have this break without Clooney letting Katzenberg know and Katzenberg trying to reel George Clooney back in and not being able to do that. That break is not just obvious and important in Hollywood, it is through all Democratic fundraising circles.
It is a fascinating conversation that I do want to talk about today, though. It's a big test for the president. What's at stake as he delivers this first solo press conference?
Well, I've talked to many Democrats in the House and a couple in the Senate, and they're looking for how forceful, how candid, how with it the president is. But they also acknowledge that even if the president, quote unquote, succeeds at this solo press conference, that's not going to end the drama around his ability to A, campaign effectively and serve out 4 full years as president. They acknowledge those questions are going to continue, and they don't know when this story ends. Even if the president does have a successful press conference, they're like, well, what will the next event be? And they wonder how much longer this drama can play out, and they know they're going to be bashed aggressively starting Monday of next week in Milwaukee when the Republican National Convention opens up. So this story feels to many Democrats here in Washington that it has no end point. The White House would like it to end. They want congressional Democrats, Senate Democrats to accept the president's pledge to stay in this race and everyone to pipe down. That they are not piping down is indicative of the struggles the president still faces. He may resolve some of them in this press conference tonight, but if he doesn't, the calls for him to step aside will increase.
Let's talk about the Republicans and Project 2025. Why is former President Donald Trump now distancing himself from it, and what is it? Break it down for us, if you don't mind.
Let's do the what is it first. It's a 900-page book produced by the Heritage Foundation, a long-standing conservative think tank in Washington, D.C. The first book of its kind was in service of Ronald Reagan in 1980. That's how long the Heritage Foundation has been around. Former President Trump pretends he doesn't know anything about it. 20 of the authors of this book, which is a whole set of policy recommendations for a second Trump term, worked in the first Trump administration. So when the former president says he doesn't know anything about it, that's not true. That doesn't hold up. As a matter of fact, the Heritage Foundation will be a big sponsor of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee next week. And many of the proposals that are in this 900-page book would be striking some as extreme. Cutting back Social Security and Medicare, dramatically scaling back environmental protections, getting rid of no-fault divorce, if you can believe that. That's been around for decades, not only in California but across the country. Limiting or banishing access to abortion pills. There are a lot of things in there that are very intense, very conservative, and now the president, former President Trump that is, says, whoa, this might get me into some political hot water. I want to suggest I don't know anything about it. He knows plenty about it. It's being written for a second Trump term, if there is one, and that's going to be part of the conversation. Maybe not next week in Milwaukee, because Republicans would rather not, but Democrats will continue to bring it up.
It does seem Democrats are using social media, though, to spread it before that convention. Major, so good to see you. I know you come out to Southern California, so next time you're out here, come visit us. I know it's going to be a busy time for you in Washington, but next time, come on out, okay?
Very good.
Thank
He's not
you.
committing.
I know. Thanks, Major. Appreciate it.